Welcome to part 10 of Buddhism. This provides a brief introduction to Buddhist practices such as worship and festivals. The word puja means prayer or worship. The most common type of puja in Buddhism is Buddha puja, which is praying to or worshiping the Buddha. This term can also cover worshiping the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So Buddha puja comes in different forms. A common form is to say a prayer or chant honoring the Buddha or the triple gem, also giving offerings such as incense, flowers, or fruit, for example, to an image of the Buddha that you can see in the picture on the right. In Theravada Buddhism, Buddha puja is the most common form of worship. In Mahayana, it's common to worship other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas besides Shakyamuni Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. So there's a whole pantheon, you could say, of many different awakened beings that are worshipped in Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism was also the first type of Buddhism to use images or icons in worship. But then this subsequently spread to Theravada. Vajrayana Buddhism is like Mahayana Buddhism in that many different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are worshipped. It's more common in Vajrayana as well to worship gods and goddesses regarded as protectors of the Dharma or as incarnations of Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. This is not unique to Vajrayana Buddhism. For example, in East Asian Mahayana, like in Japanese Buddhism, it's common to regard certain kami or Japanese gods as incarnations of Buddhas. However, this combining of worship with gods and goddesses in the context of Buddhism seems most common in Vajrayana and to a lesser extent Mahayana. Buddhist temple worship consists of giving food to monks as offerings, as food offerings to them. And the monks will chant over the food, and the food becomes blessed, and then it's shared among the monks and the lay people who've gathered to offer the food to the monks. So there's basically two different types of offerings in Buddhism. On the picture on this slide, you can see fruit and candles and flowers being given as offerings to an image of the Buddha. There's also a custom of arranging the fruit or the flowers, and sometimes in elaborate ways. And then the second type of offering is that given to monks themselves. And this is the food that's generally shared as a communal meal by the lay people and the monks who've assembled. And the monks, since they're only supposed to eat before noon, before midday, that's typically when the food offerings would be given, like late morning, essentially. The word dana means giving, generosity, or charity. So it includes any type of generosity. In the context of Buddhism, it's most especially donating food or other goods to monks or monasteries. Almsgiving is a type of dana that refers to giving the monks their daily food. Dana is regarded as one of the easiest or most accessible types of Buddhist practice. So it's the easiest way for lay people to earn merit or good karma. So the idea is it may be hard for a lay person to avoid all the types of wrong action that are associated with the precepts, but it's easy for anyone, regardless of their circumstances of life, to give. So during dana, there can be a kind of ceremony where monks chant scriptures, and this is kind of like a way of acknowledging the dana and its religious value. Dana is not part of the Noble Eightfold Path, but it's a very important part of Buddhism. It's discussed much both in the Pali Canon and in other Buddhist scriptures. So it can sometimes be regarded as a kind of unstated preliminary to the Noble Eightfold Path, because having a charitable aspect of mind, a charitable disposition, is regarded as a necessary first step before you embark upon the Noble Eightfold Path. There's an important concept in Buddhism called merit or punya. Merit is basically a way of measuring or quantifying good karma. And the idea a lot of Buddhists have is that by performing acts of generosity, by following the five precepts, or by performing meditation, you can earn or accumulate merit. Now, the idea is accumulating merit will give you blessings both in this lifetime and in a future rebirth. Strictly speaking, an awakened being, a Buddha or Arhat, has gone beyond the need for merit. So merit is something that you accumulate typically within samsara. But even though accumulating merit can happen within the context of rebirth as opposed to awakening, it's still regarded as a very important way of being a Buddhist, a very important Buddhist practice, because you will basically not become fully awakened until you've accumulated a lot of merit. So when you're accumulating merit, you're basically perfecting your virtue and your wisdom. There's a belief and a practice in Buddhism called merit transfer. This is a ritual or ceremony in which you donate or give the good fruit, the phala of your good karma, to other beings. So like if you have a very big act of generosity, such as in the photograph on the right, the Prime Minister of Thailand is giving food to a bunch of different monks. And by pouring the water into that bowl, that's a Thai custom. He's symbolically transferring the merits, the good karma accumulated from this very generous action to other beings. Merit transfer is something that, if you think about it carefully, is in tension with the original meaning of the Buddha's doctrine of karma. So the original idea of karma is that every being, every sentient or conscious being has their own karma. So you cannot directly improve the karma of other beings. Your actions are your good karma. You can try to inspire them or encourage them to good karma, but ultimately, whether they have good karma is up to their own action. It's their responsibility. Merit transfer seems to modify that teaching, because the idea behind it is that you can share your good karma with other beings. There is a way of interpreting merit transfer to make it more compatible with the original understanding of karma. And I've heard this said by different Buddhist teachers, that the way merit transfer works is that other beings, if they become aware of your merit transfer, then they could be inspired by that and have feelings of goodwill or gratitude towards you. And then that feeling or that mental state, that thought of goodwill or that thought of gratitude that they do, that's actually their good karma, and that's how they benefit from the merit transfer. I think a lot of Buddhists who practice merit transfer, they're not necessarily thinking of it though in that subtle of a way. There's just this general kind of idea that you can share the fruit of your good karma with other beings, and in so doing you're actually multiplying your original good karma, because that merit transfer is itself an act of dana or generosity. So now let's talk about some of the main Buddhist festivals. The most important one is called Vesak. This celebrates the birthday of the Buddha. It falls on the 8th day of the 6th lunar month. So there's a Buddhist calendar that goes back to ancient India. It's based on the cycles of the moon, like the Vedic or Hindu calendar. In terms of the modern solar calendar, the Vesak festival falls in May or June, but the exact day varies based on the cycles of the moon. Japan is an example of a Buddhist country, or a country in which Buddhism is a prominent religion, where they have fixed the dates of the Buddhist festivals to the modern solar calendar. So Japan celebrates Vesak always on April 8th. But that's rather an exception. Most Buddhist countries use the traditional lunar calendar. So in Mahayana countries, East Asian Buddhism, so this would include China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Vesak only celebrates the Buddha's birthday. But in Theravada Buddhism, they believe that Vesak is also the time of the Buddha's awakening and his date of death, that they all happened on the full moon of this month of Vesak. Vesic is a different pronunciation of the Sanskrit word Vaishaka, so you'll sometimes see both of those in Buddhist sources. The picture on the right is from a Vesic celebration in a temple, Wat Po, in the capital of Thailand, Bangkok. This is one of the most important temples in Thailand. Another important Buddhist festival is Asala Puja and the Vasa festival, which follows it. Or Vasa is more like a season, really. Asala Puja is the 15th day of the 8th lunar month of the Buddhist calendar. This usually falls in July on the modern solar calendar. Asala Puja commemorates the Buddha's first sermon or teaching, his first sutra, the Dhamma Chakra Pravartana Sutra, the discourse of the turning of the Dharma wheel. So Vasa is the 3-month-long period that follows Asala Puja. And this corresponds to the rainy season in the Indian calendar. So in the Indian climate, there's approximately a 3-month period that tends to be very rainy. This corresponds to the period roughly between July and October in the modern Western solar calendar. So there's kind of like a monsoon season in India where there's a lot of rain, and this typically leads to flooding. And so in order to both avoid the rain and to avoid the floods, like flooded rivers and so on, because traveling could be difficult or even hazardous during this period, monks would traditionally stay in one place, whereas other parts of the year they might wander around from village to village, both seeking alms but also teaching the Dharma in different places. But while they took the opportunity to stay in one place, they would practice meditation for a longer period. So many modern monks and some lay people will practice meditation during Vasa. It's also common for lay people to take the precepts more seriously or to take on additional precepts like the 8 precepts during Vasa. And some lay people even go on meditation retreats during Vasa. So this is sometimes called the Buddhist Lent because it's a period of increased religious practice of renunciation, similar to the Lenten season in Catholic and Orthodox Christianity. So another important Buddhist festival is called the Ghost Festival, or Chong Yuan Jia. This is a festival from Chinese Buddhism. You can also find it in other Mahayana countries in East Asia. There's versions of it in Vietnam and Japan, for example. So this occurs on the 15th day of the 7th lunar month of the traditional Chinese calendar. Now this is different from the ancient Buddhist calendar, but the traditional Chinese calendar also is based on the cycles of the moon. The Ghost Festival corresponds to August or September in the modern solar calendar. So during the Ghost Festival, pretas, or that's the Sanskrit word for ghost, are believed to visit the living. So there's a belief that the 7th month is one in which the ghosts are closer to living humans. Specifically on the night of the 15th day of this month, the borderlands or the gates between heaven, hell, and other realms are opened. And so ghosts are able to travel from those other realms to the human realm. And this is connected to the Buddhist belief in rebirth in different realms, like heaven or hell, the animal realm, etc. One of the 6 realms of rebirth is also those of the pretas or ghosts specifically. But this festival, the way it's celebrated, is also influenced by Chinese religion, which is rooted in ancestor worship, where you venerate or honor the spirits of your departed ancestors. And so those two have been kind of combined in the Ghost Festival. And so offerings are given to the departed ancestors, such as burning incense. And there's also a custom where candles or lanterns on paper boats, or just lanterns in general, are believed to give guidance to the souls. So it can basically help guide them, light the way to a better afterlife or a better rebirth. This festival is called Obon in Japan. There are similar festivals in Theravada countries, but they don't occur at the same time as this Chinese festival.